We were having some fun. I don't know if it was earlier this week or last week, but Josina Anderson, right? Was it Josina Anderson who wrote about Shedeur Sanders?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
She was insinuating very strongly, but in a cute, obtuse way, that one of the quarterback coaches from a top 7 team.
Which is an oddly specific number.
Yeah, but the Jets quarterback coach is black, and they have the 7th pick, and their head coach is black. So, and Cam Ward's black, so I don't get any of this.
She had a
Six.
long conversation.
Is it like you just add one?
Yeah, like it was so like, you know what she wants you to
Weird.
do? She wants you to say something to her so she can retweet it and go, "This is what I'm dealing with." And the idea was like, this guy. It almost seemed like she was in love with Shedeur Sanders. She's like, this guy said Shedeur was cocky in a meeting, and you know, it's because he's black, basically. Well, now Todd McShay, who is working for the Ringer, and he said, well, not only that, but Shedeur Sanders, I've heard, has met with a couple teams where it seemed in their 15-minute meeting like he had no interest at all with those teams.
Yeah.
So Shedeur Sanders, and then what the guy told McShay, and I'm sure, Bert, you've heard stuff too, is like, they're like, look, this guy's an average athlete with an average arm. He holds on to the ball too long.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flaws in his game. He's got no business
I don't
acting
think
this way.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of it is that I think to some degree, like, look, like he's not stupid. Deion's not stupid. And I think one of the things that's interesting about Deion that people don't really fully grasp is he's super old school in the way he runs his program. And Colorado, like the foundation of what they've done is like almost like Nick Saban-esque, you know, like what the way they try to run the thing. And so like I don't think like Shedeur Sanders is a total bleep head, you know? But I do think this feels to me at least a little bit like an Archie Eli situation, you know, where 20 years ago, Archie saw it as I don't like the situation with the team that has the first pick, so I'm going to steer him somewhere else, and I'm going to be the bad guy, you know. And there were a lot of questions back then, if you remember, about, well, does that mean if you draft Eli, you're getting Archie? No, like, because Archie was never going to do that. Archie wasn't going to insert himself in his kid's career that way or create that problem for his kid. It was just getting him to the right place, and then he disappeared. And I think that might be part of what's going on with Shedeur, where it's Deion might be helping try to steer him to a certain place. Now, the risk is that he's not as good a prospect as Eli.
Yeah, Eli Manning was the number 1 pick in the draft.
Right.
There was no doubt about it. He was a not generational, but he was
a really good prospect.
A very, very good prospect from a blue blood family.
And Shedeur, the risk for Shedeur is you're dismissive to a couple teams you don't want to go to, and all of a sudden you fall out of the first round.
Yeah, and you've talked to people, I would imagine, that don't even view him as a first-round talent.
Yeah, and I think that this is, to me, this is going to be like Bo Nix. In that last year, I had a real hard time finding very many teams at all that saw Bo Nix as a first-rounder. Some didn't see him as a second-rounder. And really for Bo Nix, it was more about finding the right fit, because he didn't have a huge arm, and he's a good, not great athlete. And would a lot of the stuff that he did at Oregon and Auburn translate onto an NFL field? And the reality of it was that Sean Payton saw him differently than almost everybody else in the league. Interestingly enough, the other team that really liked him was New Orleans, which is where Sean came from, obviously, and a lot of the same people were there. But he went to the exact right place. And I think we underrate that stuff sometimes. Like, he went to the exact right place. So he wasn't as good a prospect as Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Drake May to most of the league. But Sean Payton had him ranked as the number 2 quarterback in the entire class behind only Jaden Daniels. He was number 2 for their.
Oh, he had him above Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he had him number 2 in the entire class. And so, you know, I think that's what it's going to be for Shedeur. Is he doesn't have the talent that makes you say, yes, like, we can work with that for everybody.
Is Bo Nix bigger and a better athlete than Shedeur, though?
He's stout. Yeah, I would say they're probably about the same height. You have to look this up. I think
he just seems like a bigger.
They're about the same height, but Bo Nix is stouter. Yeah, like he's better built. They're both instinctive, accurate, smart, tough. Like they both have that. I think Bo is probably a little bit more evolved because he played more, you know. And one thing that Shedeur doesn't have is Shedeur isn't very efficient in the pocket. Like one difference you hear about like Shedeur versus Jackson Dart is Shedeur runs backwards. Jackson Dart moves forwards in the pocket. Like if you watch a lot of Shedeur, what you'll see is he'll bail out the back of the pocket, and you can't do that in the NFL if you're not, Lamar Jackson.
If you're not Josh
Allen. I mean, you're not going to be able. I mean, it's just he's not going to be able to get away from guys the way he did in college if he tries to do that. So there are things he has to work on.
And he barely did in college. I mean,
yeah,
he get hit.
I just think it's like, but it's the same.
He's got
to me
PTSD, all running for his life for 2 years.
To me, it's like the same as Bo Nix, though, in that like it's like a narrow path that I think he's going to have to walk to becoming a star NFL quarterback, and there's going to have to be a fit there for him, like going to the right place.
Both of them are 6'2", 215.
Okay.
It just
Bo Nix looks bigger.
Bo Nix legit looks way bigger. Like you saw Shedeur.
Bo Nix looks like a running back.
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders at the podium and like coming into the combine looked like a.
He's skinny.
Like a thin, like handsome fella. Like he didn't look like like a big football player.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Patriots are at 4. You think Cam Ward? You're not for sure Cam Ward's going number 1.
I think Cam Ward will be gone by the time they pick.
Okay,
I do.
So that leaves what, the Giants?
So that would be
and,
it's the Giants,
Cleveland.
the Browns, and the Titans. Yes. Yeah. So I think my guess would be Cam Ward goes either 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I had to guess right now, I'd say Carter and Hunter are probably gone. Hunter's interesting to me because, like, you have this need at receiver if you're the Patriots. Could you play Hunter for a year as just a receiver? Because he's never really done that before. And the comps on Hunter as a receiver are Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith. Like, so he has a chance to be a really good receiver.
Local reporting, guys like Doug Kyed and Andrew Callahan, I think, were reporting that the Patriots love him as a receiver.
Right, and so, like, do you look at it and say, okay, for the time being, we'll take him and we'll play him at receiver as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then a year or two from now, he'll go full-time to defense and be part-time as a receiver, because that's the way you sort of have to do it logistically. We talked about that last week, I think, right? Like, where you have to, like, you sort of – a guy can't be – it's, like, really hard to be a part-time guy on defense.
No, I know. And people are starting to pick apart him a little bit as a corner now. They're starting to show games where he struggled.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time.
I mean, I think he's going to –
time. But, I mean, he's not a perfect prospect.
And here's the other thing. It's like I think the way most of the league sees the draft class is Carter and Hunter up here, and then there's like this clump of 10 players. So I almost feel like if Carter or Hunter falls to you, it's really hard to say no. Like with the 4th pick, you shouldn't be drafting for need.
Oh, absolutely not. And
if you're now if we're in the second round, the third, that's where you draft for need. But if you're having the 4th pick, it should be just get a blue chip player. And if one of those blue chip players is available, now if both those guys are gone, then it's Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Jalen Walker. I mean, Ashton Genty's going to be seen that way. I don't think you take a running back that high, but he's in that class. Will Campbell. So to me, like, Will Campbell's interesting because Will Campbell, I think you have to be comfortable. Look up Brandon Sheriff if you're a Patriots fan. Like, Washington took him in 2015, was a great left tackle at Iowa. A lot of people said, no, he's really a guard, 5th overall pick. They started him out in camp at tackle.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
And he winds up being a really good guard. So you have to be comfortable with that. If, like, yes, we'll draft him as a tackle, he may become a guard. So you have to be comfortable with that. With Mason Graham, it's sort of, is there a ceiling on how good he can be because of his size, right? The one that I think is really interesting that I think Vrabel is really going to like that no one's talking about yet, that I think, like, if you want to roll the dice on a guy who can become a blue chipper, is this guy Jalen Walker, who I think has a lot of the same things that Abdul Carter has. He's a little shorter for an edge rusher, but if you go back and you watch his highlights, He's an absolute menace.
Georgia,
At
right?
Georgia.
Yeah.
He's an absolute menace.
That's
he's
who
all over the
Jets
all
would
over
take.
the place. Yeah. And like he's just this he's this like Swiss Army knife of like off-ball linebacker, plays on the line. You can use him all over the place. And I look at him and I'm like, man, like that is like the sort of guy like where if you add him to your defensive front, like he may not be blue chip right now, but I mean, you guys know the tackle from Texas, Kelvin Banks?
Yes.
One of the main reasons that Kelvin Banks may fall out of the top 10, he's very talented, right?
Yeah.
Is because of Jalen Walker.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't want a tackle that could be a guard at 4.
Well, no,
I don't want that.
And the Jets have. You don't want the Patriots taking him because that's the dream Jets pick is this kid from Georgia. So shut up. All right, Bert. Thank you so much. MMQB is the place.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.